Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Alexis, and if you're not new to my channel, welcome back. Today's video is going to be all about manic episodes. I got requested to do this video, and I thought it was a good idea because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about it, exactly what it is, and of course, you can Google it, but it's better to get a description from someone who experiences manic episodes. And of course, manic episodes can range depending on person to person. There are two types of bipolar disorder. There is bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. The hair. A lot of times you either have one or the other, but it does happen where you have both. I have both. And if you also have both, it does make it a little bit more difficult because you never really know what your mania is going to be. But it's just as manageable and it's just as okay to live with as whether you have one or the other. Now, bipolar 1 is more of the super high highs and moderate lows. So by super highs, I mean you're crazy motivated, you do irrational things, you think irrational thoughts, you do weird, out of the ordinary things, like I've ran my car off a road before because I just felt like it. I've went to a park at 2 a.m. because I felt like it and I wanted to swing and I wanted to touch the sky. I've sat out in the rain before on my deck just because I wanted to feel the rain. I've done a lot of weird, irrational things. It's, you talk really fast, you walk really fast, you have these crazy ideas, like I've wanted to randomly become vegan before. Just woke up and wanted to be vegan. I've woke up and wanted to open my own business. I've woke up and quit my job. I've done a lot of stupid things that just made no sense, and it's always hard for a bipolar person to really figure out what they want to do with their life because it can literally change at any second. I've wanted to be a psychologist, I've wanted to be a medical examiner, I've wanted to be a vet, I've wanted to be a vet technician, I've wanted to be a writer, I've wanted to be a public speaker. And it changes every day, so it's really hard to find a career for a bipolar person because when you're manic, you change instantly. And now bipolar 2 is more of the severe lows and moderate highs. So you can be severely depressed, you can be suicidal at any moment, and it can last for a week, it can last for 6 months. The longest my mania has lasted is about 8 months, where I was just super depressed. I didn't have any motivation, typical depression, but it's more severe. It's more on the suicidal side. And the person that has both can have very high highs or very low lows. So that's why the medicine is so important, because it balances you out so well. So mania can really range from person to person. There's not any specific things that everybody does. It's different for every bipolar person. When I'm in a manic episode, when I'm more in my low lows, I get very paranoid about everything. I think I'm being watched constantly. I think my boyfriend's cheating. I think my family doesn't love me, and I question it. I think I don't have friends that care about me. I think they're doing things behind my back. I'm very unrealistically paranoid when I have no reason to be, And when I'm in my high state, my high highs, I think I can conquer the world. It's like you're on drugs 24/7. It's like you're high 24/7. That's why they call it highs. Because you're very irrational. You think you can do anything, and you obviously cannot. You think you're invincible. It's just stuff like that. And I also got requested to talk about how I got on the right medications for me, personally. Medication, I'm not a doctor. I don't want to recommend anything to anybody, but I'm just saying what works for me personally and my brain chemicals. Do not take this video and go to your doctor and say, I think I need to be on this. You need to go to your doctor and talk to them, and they will tell you what's best for you, because what works for me is probably not going to work for you, because everybody's brain chemicals are so different. That's why there's so many different types of medications out there. Now, the first medicine I was ever on, when I was 15, I started taking Lexapro, which is an antidepressant. And, you know, obviously that worked for my lows because it was controlling the depression, but it didn't work for my highs or my mood instability. So when I turned about, I want to say 18, when I was 18, I talked to my doctor, who is my family physician, and I'd been seeing a therapist, and my therapist and my doctor talked about it, and they kind of brought up, well, she's showing a lot of symptoms of bipolar disorder. So he was going to treat me for bipolar disorder, but he never actually said you're bipolar. They really thought I had bipolar depression, but not so much bipolar disorder. So they kept me on the Lexapro. They made my dosage higher, and they put me on Lamictal once a day. Now, when you start out on medications, they start you out low to get your body adjusted to it, and then you're supposed to go back in a few months or a few weeks, and they raise that dosage, and they keep raising it until you find the correct milligrams and the correct combination of medicine that works for you personally. And I went back before I ended up in the Ridge, so I was still 18. I went back, and he raised my dosage of Lamictal to 25 milligrams twice a day. So I was taking 50 every day, and then he raised my Lexapro to 20. And that worked for about a year. It worked consistently for about a year. I had a lot of life changes going on in this year, so my mania was more heightened because it's heightened under stress, and it's heightened under any type of change in the weather in your life. I just had a lot going on, so my mania was heightened, and my highs were heightened, and my lows were heightened. And so the medicine helped to a certain extent. The rest of it kind of came from my own mental strength and my own knowledge of the disorder. You know, I looked up on it, I researched on it, and that's the best thing you can do is join support groups, research your disorder so you know more about it and you know what to expect, so you're not going in blind, you know. So once I ended up in a mental facility, that's when I was 19. That's when the psychiatrist diagnosed me bipolar. He said you have 1 and 2. So you have, depending on the day, an even and an uneven mixture of bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. So that was really hard to accept because, you know, I thought I was just mildly bipolar. I didn't realize how severe it was until I had a break. I snapped. I had a very severe manic episode. My parents got concerned. They committed me. And that was the best thing that could have happened, I think, because I did learn coping mechanisms. I was in there for 72 hours. So I went in Friday, got released Sunday. The longest 3 days of my life. I was really mad at my parents at first for committing me, because even though I was 19, I was voluntarily committed, but they really didn't give me a choice. And so they pretty much were like, if you don't go, we're going to get a court order for you to go. So I went, and I don't think they knew how severe it was either. because I didn't really talk about it. I kept it to myself a lot of the times, but they started to catch on that I was changing. Everything about my demeanor was changing. I was more unstable. Like, you could say anything to me and I could just snap. And I was mean and I was hateful, and then I'd be really, really just crying all day, or I was not stable at all. So once I ended up there, I met with a psychiatrist 3 times a day for 3 days so he could properly evaluate me, and he kept me on the Lexapro and the Lamictal, but he added Abilify. Abilify was very hard on my body because the side effects took very harsh to my body. I was drowsy all the time. I was fatigued. All I wanted to do was sleep because I was so drowsy and so fatigued, and I was dizzy. So I didn't take that consistently for a long time, but now I'm taking it consistently, and the combination of the medicines has made a huge difference. I'm noticing a huge difference. I have little to no manic episodes now, but I still do have them. Like about 2 days ago I had one, and it was very short. It only lasted about 45 minutes because I was able to control it and diminish it because of the tips and tricks that I learned in the mental facility from the professionals and from my therapist, things I've learned from my therapist and from my doctors. Coping mechanisms. And if you don't want to go see a therapist, I highly recommend you go see a therapist or a psychiatrist, just because they're trained in how to teach you to handle it instead of you just thinking you can handle it on your own, because you can't. You can't. You need help. And that's just something you're going to have to accept. If you haven't accepted it yet, you just need help. And once you come to terms with that, then you can move forward in coping mechanisms and how to handle it. Because once you figure out how to handle it, you are going to feel so much better. Having a consistent schedule helps. I don't have a consistent schedule right now, so it's kind of throwing me off. But I'm working on having one. Job-wise, having a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 4:30 job makes a huge difference. Waking up and going to the gym at a certain time, eating breakfast at a certain time, eating lunch at a certain time. That type of consistency, that narrowed down consistency, is what's going to make a difference in your disorder. I have to eat breakfast the same time every day. I have to take my medicine the same time every day. I have to have my coffee the same time every day. I have to work out the same time every day. I have to sleep the same time. I have to be very consistent in a routine, or else it's going to throw me off. The job I have right now is not consistent, so it does throw me off, and I am looking for a different job, a full-time job, so that it's more consistent in my routine and I can get back into a routine so that it helps. So if you're wondering what combination of medicine you need to be put on, do not follow me, because what's going to work for me may not work for you, because maybe you have more of something else than I do, or you have less of something else than I do. But you need to talk to a professional, and you need to tell them what's going on, what you're experiencing, and then they can start from there. It is a long process. It took my doctors essentially 4 to 5 years to get the right medicines, but that was only because I didn't go to them and say, hey, this is what's going on. I waited until I really couldn't wait anymore, and that's when they helped, because they didn't know. Your doctor can't read your mind. You need to tell them everything that's going on so that they can properly assess you and properly diagnose you and properly help you. They cannot diagnose you or help you if they don't know the truth about what's going on. And don't be afraid that they're going to commit you, and don't be afraid that they're going to do something crazy, because sometimes if you need to be committed, you need to be committed. I was really afraid of being committed at first, and I was really afraid that I wasn't going to get out for a couple of months, but really sometimes all you need to do is be evaluated for a certain amount of days, and once they evaluate you and they assess what's going on and they fix your medication, a lot of times they'll let you go. Because they know you don't need to be in there for a long period of time. You know, the only way that they're not going to let you go is if they're not seeing you make progress. And a lot of the times it's just the medication that's stopping you from making progress. So once they get you on the right medication, you'll start making progress. You see how it's a domino effect? So that's really all I wanted to talk about in this video was the medication I'm on, the journey of how I got to be on the medications that I'm on, and my mind went blank. It's really just about medications and what works for me. And manic episodes. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. So I hope you all have a good day. Don't forget to subscribe and like it. Thanks, guys. Bye.